last to be paraded because they have the highest number of Baloguns from their family historically. So they are the last to come out with their horse riders. Now, for when it is, they only have one daughter. The daughter is married to an Igbo guy. So we didn't even know the guy was Igbo. My husband is from Abia. And he was the one carrying the family, whatever, dancing up and down. You would think he was an Ijebu guy, you know. And I said, it might look very small, but the kind of mess we are in nationally, it speaks a lot because their daughter, even if she's from Abia, from my father's side, will always shop for Judioba in the future.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's make the magic happen. Yes, indeed. 31 minutes past 7 a.m. It's the 10th day of June 2025. It's a Tuesday morning, a beautiful Tuesday morning. Cool weather we're having out there. You're most welcome to Freshly Pressed on the Smooth Breakfast here on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It is all about taking a look at the dailies, the papers, the headlines, analysis, and of course, your thoughts and contributions are going to follow. Welcome into the first day of the working week. It's a Tuesday, but you know, the long holiday made it look that way. And we are ready to take a look at what's been going on in the dailies, the Guardian, the Punch, the Vanguard. Everything is here ready for you. My name is Ayokunmi, and welcome once again. Joining me to take a look at the stories is the one and only Chibuzor in the studio. Chibuzor, good morning to you. Great to have you on Freshly Pressed.
It's a good morning. I hope we all rested after the holidays, and yeah, if that wasn't enough for you, I think there's one in 2 days' time. So.
Yes, indeed, another holiday on Thursday. You know, before the Salah break actually happened, there was speculation that the Salah Eid would be on Saturday, so Monday and Tuesday would have been declared. So it would have been Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. A lot of people were salivating at the thoughts, but man proposes, God disposes, as they say.
Those celebrating were already queued in Wednesday as part of the break. So,
exactly.
you know, it raises a lot of questions about our national, our scale of importance nationally. But that's another question for another day.
Yes, indeed. All right, a lot of questions to be answered today because a couple of different stories that we need to get through. But before we do that, to let you know how you can join us as you always do to share your thoughts and opinions via WhatsApp. That is, you can do that with the number or on the number 0809 444 0981 0809 444 That is the WhatsApp number. You can also join on YouTube where we're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Leave your comments in the chat box there as well. We'll take them alongside all the other messages. All right, let's begin our discussion this morning. We're heading into the Guardian newspaper. And we're talking Niger State. Yes, Niger State still in the news, where the state governor, Mohammed Umaru Bago, has announced a donation of 1 billion naira to assist victims of the recent flood disaster in Mokwa local government area. The governor made the announcement during an on-the-spot assessment of the affected areas where several homes and properties were destroyed by the devastating floods. Now, while addressing residents, the governor stressed the importance of avoiding construction or habitation near waterways to prevent future loss of lives and property. Yes, he also commiserated with the victims and assured that all cash and material donations from the federal government, individuals, and donor agencies would be used transparently and for the intended purposes. Well, the governor of Niger State back in during the heat of the tragedy there, he wasn't on the ground, and now he's back. He's announced a donation of 1 billion naira to assist the victims and so on and so forth. So questions actually arising from this, one of which is, okay, where exactly is the 1 billion naira coming from? Is it a personal donation? Is it supposed to come from the coffers of the government? And more importantly, people are still asking about the monies that were earmarked for the flood prevention drive, the grants, the grants that was given 2 billion naira, and so on and so forth. Questions are still being asked about how that money was utilized or not utilized. And here we are now with the governor doing this.
I think you've basically taken all the questions out of my mouth because I don't think there's much to be covered again in this story because So personally, and just to warn everybody, I have a pet peeve about when state officials, governors, presidents come out and donate funds from state coffers, and make it feel, because let's be clear about when it comes to state coffers, it means that it's our money, the people's money we are basically throwing back at them as a donation, as our benevolent donations. So that's where the question that I has asked is pertinent. Where has this donation come from? Is it from the state coffers? Is he doing this on behalf, as in his position as governor, taking some money from some maybe disaster fund or allocation, or some petty cash that the state has somewhere and saying, we're going to donate it to the good people of Mokwa? Or has he gathered his committee of friends, like some the son of some VIP that we know, said, that's the phrase that a lot of politicians tend to use these days, where they don't want fingers pointing at them. We have committee of friends that donate a billion or a million, and send that money across. So where has that boy, has he dipped into his own personal funds and said, you know what, I'm the governor, I have this, I have so much money, I want to help my people, so I'm going to spend out of that. So it will be good to know where that money has come out from, because it might raise other questions and other things. But there's the bigger elephant in the room, because this is not the first time Mokwa has been flooded. This is not the second time Mokwa has been flooded. And the last time there was, I think in anticipation of the floods this year, trying to prevent the impact of these floods, particular amounts of money were, I think we're talking about over 2 billion. The last, there was was it $10 million or
$10 million grant,
and $10 million grant,
and they spent 2.2 billion on gully erosion,
and there was 2.2 billion on gully erosion. So it would be good, like the governor has talked about transparency now, monies will be spent or other things will be spent. It would be good for you to start from that point where those grants came in previously and say, you know what, this is how that money was spent. This is what we did. It was probably not enough, but we did this, this, and this, and this is where the 10 billion went into. And this is where the 10 million went into, this is where the 2.2 billion went into, So that everybody will say, you know what, this governor, these people are doing their best, but hey, this is an act of God. We have also instances about people that have lost their lives, and those are questions that need to be answered. We do hope that the 1.1 billion is put into good use, because obviously a lot of people have lost their homes, they've lost their, they've lost family, they've lost property. There are a lot of things that need to be done. So the 1 billion will go a long way. But the question, I always find it very interesting when government officials talk about when they start advising people not to build by floodplains or whatever. These places are not in Mars. If it was during election, you guys would find your ways to go and inspect, to go and see those people at those places, right? To go and throw those small things and get their votes, or try to get their, or appear to get their votes. So we have all sorts of departments that are supposed to ensure that those places are not built up. We have all sorts of departments that are supposed to ensure that they get whatever paperwork is required before they start constructing or doing anything. So why don't you put in the same effort to try and prevent this loss of lives by ensuring that these things do not happen? Find ways like that, because theoretically, thinking about it, if you had used the $10 million or 2 billion for what they were supposed to do, there will be no place for them to even live by the river banks or those floodplains.
That's a lot of money.
Because you would have done some work to channel the water out of those areas, or some construction would have happened there. So those guys would not, unless they were going to cover whatever you did and now live on the whatever you have built around there. So let's take some responsibility. Let's take the extra mile. It's we've fallen into this trap when we have myself and I were talking about something before that. It's our anyhowness, and we fall into this trap where instead of preventing undue loss of lives, we accept it, and in our religious nature, we just ascribe it to, man proposes,
God disposes,
and we just move on. This is a lot of this stuff is basically criminal negligence.
Whenever I think of man proposes, God disposes, first thing that comes to my mind is that statement that was made by Jam after the initial vision.
Let's not go there. That's another big example of our anyhow.
It still galls me up until this day, that statement that was made. But anyways, like you said, let's not even.
That's the problem. When there are people who have gone to Jam is responsible for getting people through schools. At least getting people into the higher institutions. The people who have gone through the higher institutions have studied how to do public relations. Have gone, and it appears that Jam did not decide to go and see somebody who has gone through the training to be in that public relations space before the head of Jan decided to release that statement. And that's a reflection of our anyhowness.
Hmm. Yes, indeed. All right. Let's know your thoughts on this particular story. And of course, more stories we'll be talking about this morning. The WhatsApp number remains, like I said earlier, 0809 And that is the way you can keep up with us this morning. Also, join us on YouTube. The live stream is, well, it is live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And you can leave your comments out there in the chat box if you would love to do so. All right, let's step into the Vanguard right now. And this one says that the senior special assistant to President Bola Tinubu on public affairs, that's Aliyu Audu, has resigned from his position, raising concerns about the ruling All Progressives Congress APC's push toward a one-party state. Now, in a resignation letter dated the 8th of June and submitted via the president's chief of staff, Femi Bajabiamila, Audu said, I write to formally tender my resignation as senior special assistant to the president of public affairs effective immediately. Now, in a follow-up public statement that he made, he stated, though, he clarified that his resignation was not an act of rebellion at all, but a matter of principle and of conscience as well, expressing unease with what he described as a growing effort to stifle political opposition in Nigeria. Now, of course, we've heard, contrary thoughts on this one from the APC and all that. That's, there is no push for a one-party state. But I mean, the actions that we've seen recently say otherwise. There's a gale of defections, kind of like, a tide sweeping people from other parties into the APC. Of course, we've seen in Akwa Ibom State, the governor there also, moving to the APC. And so many others have moved recently. And now we have an aide who's resigning who is saying that I'm not down with what is going on. Looks like a one-party agenda is on the agenda.
So it's see, I've always held the opinion that the political constructs of parties in Nigeria, as they are today, are largely SPV, special purpose vehicles, used by politicians to achieve their goals. When you think about political parties in the ways they typically are set up, they have specific ideology, clear-cut ideologies.
Hmm.
There are differences. So you'll find it hard for someone who has been in a party with a particular ideology, for instance, switching to another party, because of he will not find alignment in systems that allow independent candidates. A lot of them will either become independent or set up their own parties because they were more reflective of where they are at those points. But what you see in Nigeria is basically a scramble by politicians to have a slice of the cake. Because there's a mindset that if I'm not part of the guys who are chopping that cake at the moment, I will lose out. And that speaks to a bigger problem. So, while I'm not going to speak to what the ruling party is doing to engineer or to get a lot of these guys to cross. We found that some people have found a way to get immunity, like when you get vaccinations for diseases, when you sweep over to the broom side, or whoever is in charge. Now it's the broom. Before it used to be the umbrella. Once you sweep over to that side, if you've done wrongs before, you get vaccinated and you become immune from further prosecution, at least until another day comes. And that's why really most of the politicians who are jumping points is largely for self-preservation. It's not for any ideology, not because of any belief, not because they see any messiah anywhere. Anybody's a messiah today as long as they get their own part of the cake. So, this Mr. Audu has done something a lot of politicians are not going to do, and he's spoken to, the ruling party can say, we're not behind this, but we can partly agree with them because hey, they don't even need to be behind. Nigerian politicians are that itchy fitted; they would go where the cake is, so that either you push them or not. Because of most of their hands are not clean, so they'll go and get their vaccination.
But the thing is, sorry to interrupt you. I mean, we've seen politicians move from one party to the other. It's not a new thing, but the scale at which they seem to be moving right now compared to before, you begin to wonder.
I'm looking at both sides. I'm trying to give them the benefit of that the party is not behind it, but there's the other part also in terms of this. That's the principle of what he's talking about. Nigeria needs to ask Nigeria and Nigerians need to ask ourselves the question of what kind of system do we truly want to operate? What form? If it, is it democracy? What form of democracy do we want to operate? And is everybody aligned to it? I've heard people who you would previously say were smart come on national TV and advocate that that it just makes sense for them to migrate to the ruling party, and because so that they will form an internal opposition. It's almost like I'm going to we are going to go into the body and be a disease inside, so that the body would either die or fall from that disease. We want to become an internal opposition, and it worries me because of that mindset is driven by only one thing: greed and self-preservation, nothing more, nothing else. A lot of people have argued that, oh, that's the way forward. If we decide as a country, as a people, that we want to have a one-party state, then so be it. If we decide that we want to have a democracy, a multi-party system of democracy, then we need to build the structures that allow a multi-party system. Because it's one thing for people to be jumping parties. The another thing is alluded to is a constriction of the political space, where anybody who has a dissenting voice today is either harangued out of the room, or you have the security forces trying to calling them for questioning.
Right.
Calling a protest today in Nigeria is if we announce that somebody wants to have a protest in quotes or a march, you're basically signing an invitation to have a discussion with the powers that be in the DSS, and other security forces. And it's because of this mindset that we have today that it looks like this is the direction that we are going to, and that you know there's there's no hand apart from the hands that control things that are pushing us in that direction. So I see he's probably going to be one of those few standard politicians that come out openly to speak out about it without appearing to have any, at least at the moment, appearing to have anything to gain by it apart from residing and going to go and do other things with his life. But like you said, a lot of the words, his choice words he's used, the suppression of opposition voices, the politically reckless and spiritually dangerous. You know, I love his choice of words. And he's talked about the a lot of things he's said. The alliance between the president and the FCT minister. Who is basically like a cancer within the, because as of today, I don't believe that the FCT minister is a card carrying member of the ruling party. Officially, he still belongs to
Well,
the opposition party. So it's a
well,
very interesting state of things at the moment. So what that is where we sit as Nigeria. Like I said, at the end of the day, the politicians see the parties as SPVs
hmm,
to get to their own goals, not as ethical or ideological constructs that they want to believe in.
right, right. Well, talking about FCC Minister Wike, it's a classic case of actions speak louder, a whole lot louder than words do. And it's interesting we bring him up because we're going to talk about him right now. We're stepping back into The Guardian at this moment. Now, Serap, our good friends at Serap, once again, if I don't talk about Serap in a week, I probably will begin to feel uncomfortable. They're in the news once again. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. Now, they've called on President Bola Tinubu to restrain the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, the FCC, that's Nyesom Wike, from proceeding with plans to shut down 34 foreign embassies in Abuja over unpaid ground rents. In a statement shared on its official X account, Serap warned that any attempt to close diplomatic missions would contravene international diplomatic laws, particularly Article 22 of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, which guarantees the inviolability of embassies and diplomatic premises as well. Now, Minister Wiki had actually threatened to revoke 4,794 land titles and to also shut down embassies and other properties that owe ground rents dating as far back as 2014. Now, according to the FCT administration, foreign missions collectively owe over 3.6 billion naira. A lot of issues to unpack here. And if you remember, on 26th of May, that the president had granted a 14-day grace period for the embassies and other property owners to actually settle their outstanding rents. Now, this expired on Monday, and there were indications that there will be moves made today to shut down some of these properties and so on and so forth. But like has been said, embassies, they are not your regular everyday, other buildings. Even Femi Falana, human rights lawyer, said that that would not be a wise move to make because it would cause a lot of diplomatic issues. That's not something we want to deal with. But still, the fact that all these monies are being owed, like I said, a lot to unpack here. Chibuzor, give us some, better understanding of what is happening in this
Well,
situation.
what is happening is that since former action governor, who I think it will be good to point out that he's supposedly a lawyer. At least that's the most I know about him, that he is a lawyer. And although some of his actions don't speak to that fact, he's gone around in this thing, well, largely part fundraising, part showing that he's working, and he's going around demanding, through his office, basically demanding from paid um, ground rents from across Abuja. It's not just the across Abuja. I think a lot of they made a show and tell of shutting down the PDP office. I think, was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Thereabouts.
So it's not just about, and I think there was even a ministry or one of the parastatal that they had shut down their office. It's one of those interesting things. So he's done this, show and tell, and it's part of one of the things that Wiki has never lost from the time when he was in local government. His local government chairman has been his showmanship. He's not one of those quiet doers. He's everything. He used to have a guy come out and sing. He used to have a hype man
Right.
when he was governor.
I remember that.
And a band that used to sing at his occasions. So what he's gone around doing this, and I think the major question here is not about the validity of the claims of them owing ground rents. It's about, the fact that obviously when you look at foreign missions and embassies, they basically are representatives of their governments there, and basically in most cases you can't even gain access to those places without permissions of the government. So they are based, yes, they're sitting in Nigeria, but once you step in an embassy of country X, you're basically in country X. Now that's where the question is raised, that yes, we need to. It's good for the FCT to get this money, and we hope that when they get these monies, that these monies are used for the purposes they are supposed to be used for. It's good for the FCC for him to chase after these monies, but is it the smartest thing to go and start shutting down the embassy? And those are the questions that Serap is asking, asking them to think about, and that's why that's why they've not gone. So this is not a legal case where they are going to court to ask anybody. They're asking the president to restrain the minister. Basically, do not, Oga, please restrain your man so that he doesn't bring embarrassment or an international incident to the country. So I do hope that Minister Wiki is trying to reach out, or his office, or because I'm sure he's not the one. Well, he should not be one directly dealing with these matters. There's somebody who is employed to deal with it. I hope the office is actually reaching out to these embassies to get this money speed, or at least have a plan to get some of this money, even have a plan to sort out these issues, so that we avoid having, there's an avoidance of this final escalation. Because once you shut it down, what else? What other position can you take? That's basically your final position, that you're going to shut them down, maybe try and go and recover your funds by maybe go through the legal process. But at the end of the day, I think there's an escalation that might not be required. So I think they need to sort it out. In the other ways to sort this out, and we do hope that Minister Wiki takes the part of caution in this instance. But hey, like I said, Serap hasn't gone to court. They are asking the president to restrain because of the possible implications and outcomes of this activity. So that's what they are doing, and so it's a choice that Nigeria has to make as a country. Is this worth the collection of these funds? And if you feel it's worth it, then let's go ahead and do it, but these are the potential outcomes of these engagements. That's basically what it is.
Definitely. I mean, obviously these embassies, missions, and whomever is owing these monies obviously should pay. It's the right thing that should actually happen.
That goes without a question.
Yes, but I mean, what would the wider implications of Minister Wiki going forward with plans to actually shut down these embassies? I mean, let's play hypothetical here. Bearing in mind his antecedents, and of course, like you said, his showmanship is very, very gung ho in a certain way. I mean, what would the implications be? What could the implications be going forward?
So, I would give an example. I think Nigeria itself I think we shut down some missions in particular countries because we couldn't afford to pay rents for a particular period of time. I don't think we sorted that out now. At the point where I think even in the US embassy, we actually owing at some point, which the ambassador at that time kept on you know, were owing in the US Embassy, and the ambassador kept on talking about that. It wasn't just about the US Embassy, it was across board in several of our missions that we have been doing for years, right? When it comes to those kind of situations, you have two choices really. The country, if you come and shop me, if I have, it's like a business, like any other business, right? If you come in and say you're going to shut down my office, I have two choices to make. Either look for the money to pay up the debt. If I'm the ethical person, I don't want to owe anybody. I say I was going to find the money to pay the debt. Or I look at what is my return on investment in being there. Do I have anything to lose? Do I need to have that physical office there? Can I move to another country and reduce my cost or manage my cost? Is this place too expensive for me to be in? So I'll move to the next door country, and ask for your people that if they need any assistance, for anything, they should just find their way to that next door country and they can meet me there. That also might also trigger another diplomatic response by the country because it now says, hey, you guys are not taking me seriously enough. So we're going to give a quick, we're going to reciprocate what you've done by also shutting, so there's a potential rollerball effect to this thing. The best outcome that we are thinking about, hoping for, is that they go and look for the money somewhere and they pay up. But they can choose not to and say, you know what, let's shut it down and let's move somewhere else. And you might also think it's a slight and say we're going to shut down our own and move our own somewhere else, and everybody keeps going a tit for tat. So those, for me, those are the potential issues that can come out of it. But hey, the government has to basically sit down and look what is risk versus reward. What do we need to do? How can we deal with this in another way?
Risk versus reward. It's going to be interesting. Well, today's Tuesday already, so let's see what's going to happen. Will those missions and co be shut? Interesting times ahead. All right, let's step into the Daily Post and take this story, kind of like a feel-good one, before we need to call it a morning on the show. The Nigeria Army said its troops of Operation Hadinkai have neutralized a Boko Haram and ISWAP terrorist kingpin, Malam Jida, in Borno State. Now, Captain Ruben Kovangia, Acting Deputy Director, Army Public Relations Headquarters Theater Command Operation, in a statement said that several other terrorists in the Timbuktu Triangle were also neutralized. According to the statement, during the operations, troops came in contact with the terrorists, subduing them with superior firepower, resulting in the killing of Malam Jida, while others fled with gunshot wounds. Now, these are the sort of positive things that we love to hear where our military is concerned, not stories of them being overwhelmed and so on. Yes, the fight is going on and progress is being made, albeit slow progress, but progress all the same. What are your thoughts on this one?
See, my thoughts, whatever issue, so I'm sure our military is not perfect, right? Our country is not perfect. We as individuals are not perfect. But like you said, when the right thing is done, or when we make successes like this, we need to celebrate it. So, the I can't say too much about the work, the sacrifices that the men of the armed forces are doing, or men and women of the Nigerian armed forces are giving to keep this country together. I just pray that the people who are responsible for sending them into those places of operations and the citizens appreciate those sacrifices and do the proper thing when it comes to them. So, when these guys go out and put their lives on the line, fight to keep this country together, it's easy for the politician on one time to shout, I'm going to keep this country together by fire by force, but he's not the one who sets up into the battleground to go and do it.
Right.
These are the people that do it. So, this is a great thing to hear. The government will obviously mark this up as a success for themselves, but I do hope that the larger success for me is that when these guys go through the military, do their work, they are paid on time, they get their emoluments on time, they get everything that is due to them on time, they are given the weapons, the support that they need to be able to achieve what they need to achieve. And when they do retire from the forces, or when they have medical issues, they are sorted out and supported by the forces, and when they do retire, they get their emoluments and their payments at the end of the day. That is the greatest thing that we can do for them. All the 5 minutes or 5 seconds of my comments or uploading them here would be minuscule compared to the fact that if they finish all this, they walk away and they join the line of retirees seeking for their pensions or fighting and protesting for it. That would be sad. But thank you once again, the men and women of Nigerian Armed Forces.
Yes, indeed. And we hope that we have more of these positive results and positive stories to actually talk about in this war against terrorism. All right, let me take your messages as we wrap up on the show Freshly Pressed this morning. Tony Marine Beach says, we hope to see true transparency in the spending of donations to Mokwa victims. Some governors have these kind of waiting disasters as their farms. They'll do nothing about it, hoping that the disaster strikes someday and these windfalls come in for them. As we speak, similar situations are waiting to happen in some states, and those governors are more like waiting in quotes for their turn. Wickedness of the highest order. As for Abacha's widow, she's just woken up. I sincerely recommend very quick medical attention. I'm not joking, because this doesn't look ordinary. Well, interesting thoughts there, Tony. Ajayi Oloyinloa says the SSA that is resigning or that resigned, and the politicians that are defecting from their parties to the ruling party are all driven by greed. Unfortunately, we don't practice democracy in the country now. In country now that we now what we have is civilian rule where anything goes. All right, and this is Guru. Guru says Serap missed this one. The embassies should pay up, and he put that in all caps, stating how serious he is about that. He further says there will be no implication. Nigerians get rubbished by these countries, but I don't blame them. They should move out. These countries earn millions in visa fees from Nigerians and still deny visas with no refund. Guru is not having it with these embassies. He says they should pay their money. They can afford it.
Unfortunately, we don't even, Guru doesn't know if it's the Guru doesn't know which of the embassies that are owing at the moment. So I don't know, he's jumped to a conclusion. It might be the embassy of Mauritius, Madagascar, Chad, Niger. Don't know. I wish we knew that we would know who can pay up. If we knew, then we would say, okay, this ones they can pay, they have the money. This ones we'll have a discussion with them. So let's look at it in a bigger picture. If we, if we had additional details, then we can come to these conclusions.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
but
right.
yeah, true. Nigerians are not happy about spending so much and getting a lot of rejected visa applications, and some countries which we will not mention have been making a killing from that business.
And are still making a killing from that business.
So go, I feel your pain.
Believe me. Yes, indeed. All right, we need to call it a morning on the show Freshly Pressed. It has been quite an interesting one up until this point. Thank you for all the interesting messages, and thank you so much, Chibuzor, for making it absolutely insightful as you always do.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a great Tuesday and a great rest of the week as well. Lagos, Nigeria, the entire world, wherever it is you're listening to us right now, keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast. It's all about entertainment and everything within that space at 8:15 as we walk into the grapevine.
The headlines, the stories, the news.
Melga,
Alpha.
Good, imagine my last South African.
Swali.
I was there for a
So-
conference. I was there for a